It was a quiet morning in Washington, D.C., when a black SUV pulled up to the entrance of the Veterans Hospital. Unannounced and without the usual entourage, Donald Trump stepped out, dressed modestly in a dark suit and red tie. Unlike his usual public appearances, this visit was completely private. No cameras, no press, just a man on a mission. Inside the hospital, nurses and doctors were going about their daily routines, unaware of their special visitor. Trump had insisted that no one be informed of his arrival. He wanted to see the reality of the hospital's conditions and connect with the veterans without any distractions. As he walked through the corridors, Trump's eyes scanned the surroundings. He noticed the worn-out walls, the tired faces of staff, and the quiet resilience of the patients. Turning a corner, he saw an elderly veteran sitting alone in a wheelchair, gazing out of a window. The man's uniform was neatly folded on his lap, adorned with medals that told stories of bravery. "Good morning," Trump said, approaching the veteran with a warm smile. The man turned his head, surprised to see the former president standing before him. "Good morning, sir," the veteran replied, his voice steady but tinged with curiosity. "May I sit with you?" Trump asked. The veteran nodded. For the next few minutes, the two men engaged in conversation. Trump listened intently as the veteran, whose name was George, recounted his time in Vietnam, the friends he had lost, and the challenges he faced after returning home. Despite everything, George's pride in his service shone through. "You've given so much for this country," Trump said, his tone sincere. "It's an honor to meet you." Before leaving George's side, Trump noticed a photograph tucked into the veteran's pocket. It was a faded picture of a young George in his uniform, standing beside his family. "That's my wife and kids," George explained. "They're the reason I made it through the war. But now, I don't see them as much." Trump was visibly moved. "Family is everything," he said, placing a reassuring hand on George's shoulder. "I'll make sure they know how proud we all are of you." As Trump continued his visit, he made a point to stop at each room, introducing himself and asking the veterans about their lives. One woman, a former Army medic named Angela, shared how she had saved countless lives during her tours, but now struggled to get the medical attention she needed for her own injuries. "It feels like I've been forgotten," Angela said softly. Trump's expression turned serious. "No one who has served this country should ever feel forgotten," he said firmly. "You've done your part. Now it's our turn." In another room, a young Marine named David told Trump about his difficulty adjusting to civilian life. "It's hard to find a job when all they see is a broken soldier," he admitted. Trump listened intently, jotting down notes in a small notepad he had brought with him. "These stories aren't just heartbreaking. They're unacceptable," Trump later told the hospital director. "We need immediate solutions, not promises." Trump's visit extended far longer than anyone expected. By the time he left, he had spoken with dozens of veterans, each with a unique story of sacrifice and resilience. But the visit wasn't just about listening. It was about action. Over the next few weeks, Trump allocated funds from his foundation to renovate the hospital, ensuring it had state-of-the-art equipment and better facilities. He also launched a nationwide initiative, partnering with veteran organizations to provide housing, job training, and mental health support. For George, Trump went a step further. He tracked down George's family and arranged a reunion at the hospital. The moment George saw his children and grandchildren walk through the doors, his eyes filled with tears. "I thought I'd never see this day," George said, his voice trembling. Months later, the hospital held a ceremony to unveil the renovations and recognize Trump's efforts. Veterans, staff, and community members gathered to celebrate the transformation. During the event, George presented Trump with a small token of appreciation, a flag that had flown with him during his tour in Vietnam. "This is for you," George said, his voice breaking with emotion. "You reminded me that we're not forgotten." Trump's eyes glistened as he accepted the flag. "Thank you, George. But the real heroes are all of you. It's my honor to serve you in any way I can." The ceremony ended with a surprise announcement. A new wing of the hospital would be dedicated to George and all the veterans who had shared their stories that day. A plaque bearing their names was unveiled, symbolizing the sacrifices of countless service members. News of Trump's anonymous acts of kindness eventually spread, despite his efforts to keep them private. Donations poured into veteran support organizations, and many individuals stepped forward to volunteer their time and resources. Inspired by his visit, several major companies joined the initiative, offering employment opportunities and mentorship programs for veterans. In an interview months later, Trump reflected on the experience. "It's not about politics," he said. "It's about remembering the sacrifices these men and women have made and showing them the respect they deserve. If we all do our part, we can make a real difference."